Ollie,
Hey,
and
hey!
yep, and we are here for podcast 2, our continuation of writing and question getting to know you session, and we'll just dive right in with question from Ollie.
Yay! Okay, so the question we are going to be touching on first is who is an author who has inspired you throughout your life?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of possibilities with that question, so
Oh, tell me about it.
I'll try. I'll try to be brief. But I was thinking of dividing it into the childhood influence maybe, and then another one for the adult section. So hopefully it won't get too complicated for everyone. But for as a kid, I think I think C.S. Lewis definitely had a huge effect just because of, the Narnia series. That's
Yep. Yep.
exactly. I mean, I've read other classics like the E.B. White's, Charlotte's Web, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, what is that one? Oh, Stuart Little. I actually picked,
Yeah.
okay, that's another one I liked. The what is it? The Deaf Trumpeter Swan? No, not the deaf. The Mute Trumpeter Swan one.
Oh, yep, yep.
But that I think consistently the C.S. Lewis grabbed most of my fascination with
Mm-hmm.
and began my journey probably with the fantasy realm of talking animals, all
Yeah.
of the amazing ideas that told through a story. So
Yep.
I think that was the hugest impact. Except I also think Magic Tree House is another one
Oh,
for
yeah.
children that go into the tree house and then they have these amazing adventures. But I think it consistently became predictable. So I eventually just on. Sad to
Yep.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm good with this. At least with the C.S. Lewis novels, I could. It had a beginning, it had an end, but the ending was just so still opened that it just left you captivated even more. Of like,
Yeah.
what's the extra story that's not told at the end?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, so that would be like my children's. For my adult life right now, Tolkien obviously has this huge role in my heart and my life. I think
We're
he's just
literally the same person. Literally the same person. Those were my two choices as well.
yeah, I hate to like best your our answers. So I'm gonna actually give you an extra one that has another thing.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, you're introduced to the Jane Austen story,
Mm.
but I actually really appreciate her contemporary, the Bronte sister, but
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
well as Brontes, and then there's the oh, I'm drawing a blank on this other person, but she wrote the North and South and other stories. So whoever
Mm.
is, I'm sorry, folks, I completely drew a blank. Um, but whoever wrote they're the female authors of like the early 1800s, I believe,
Mhm.
and they write from like obviously I'm drawn because of the femaleness of it, but they are so insightful to the problems of their times. And they
Yeah.
intentionally wrote about it through the stories, like Charles Dickens, but in a different way.
Mhm.
Very unique and refreshing, I think, and definitely Renaissance like for the
Yeah.
time. So they just catapulted out from out of nowhere in a sense, and they influence a younger generation even to this day through
Yeah.
stories that they're not overtly feministic like what we think of feminists today, but they were
Yeah.
an influence of saying, you know what, females are meant to be respected just as the
Mhm.
men are, and they're not completely useless. They can
Yep.
have jobs, they can own
Yep.
they can do so much and have so much more than what
Yeah.
you're allowed during that time, that I think
Yep.
um that there's so much more than you would expect from them.
Yeah.
I think that's what really was an inspiration for me as I'm starting to read this, not only through the language, the sheer amount of the words chosen and framed, and the characters from these books
Yeah.
are very inspirational. So I would highly recommend those, and I think that's how I will end this. So hopefully that will help you choose something else, Ollie.
Yeah. So, okay. So following your example there, so for I hadn't even necessarily thought about doing, um, you know, inspiring me as a child and then inspiring me now. So that's really good. So I will follow that example. So as a kid, yeah, definitely C.S. Lewis. Like he, my mom read um, Narnia to my siblings and I, and so um, her reading through those books, I mean, it just everything about the way Lewis created that world. I was one of those kids that was going and looking in my closet. I was one of those kids. And if there was a wardrobe, somebody stop me because I was going to go. I'm like, I had friends who they actually had this giant, like an actual wardrobe. And they were also Narnia fans. And so, of course they had checked. They had checked. But once we all became friends, we all had to check again because the possibility of it being there,
Mhm.
hey, it happened for the Pevensies. It can happen for us. Like, come on, yo, don't tell me it's not real. So, this also coming from the girl who would put out her toys because after watching Toy Story, I thought maybe it might be possible that my toys did come to life when I left the room. So I left them out on the floor, left the room, and then peeked through the door and waited like a few minutes just to see because I was like, you never know. You never know. I was like, I know they don't do this, but you never know. Don't tell me it's not possible. Um, so yeah, so the biggest thing though with Lewis is just how he that gave me the foundation to start building my own worlds.
Mm.
You know, to start imagining quests and um, mystical creatures and just these beautiful other worlds. And um, so that was just such it just sparked stuff in me that now I'm like writing my own fantasy series, and I draw so much encouragement from C.S. Lewis, and also I just really loved his writing style because Lewis is very narrative in
Mm.
how he wrote Narnia. Like there wasn't like he would show you what the room looked like or what the whatever looked like, but he would show you in such a factual way,
Mm.
whereas if you look at like Tolkien, who my dad read my siblings and I The Hobbit when we were growing up. So, and with Tolkien, he was just so descriptive. Like there would be paragraphs about what the forest looked like, which Tolkien, I love you, but like, a tree is a tree. Okay? It's a tree. It's a tree. It's fine. I think we get the picture. You know, but I just loved that how narrative Lewis could be in his descriptions of everything. So that always stood out to me. Um, Another author and series that impacted me very very much um, when I was like a teenager, um, preteen, was Gilbert Morris. And he is a Christian author he's down south. He's written like a whole ton of different series. Like he's done some historical fiction, but the series that really got me was it was a fantasy series called the Seven Sleepers series.
Mm.
And there's the original series has 10 books, and then I think he wrote some, like, the other adventures of the Seven Sleepers, and there's like 7 books in that series. But the original 10 are just the best. And basically it's about these 7 teenagers from different places. It follows specifically kind of focusing on this, I think he's 13-year-old boy named Josh, and this 13-year-old girl named Sarah. And it starts off in our world. These books were written a while ago too, so like I think they take place in the 90s. So our world, 90s, and basically there's like the apocalypse happens essentially, and there's this plan in place where there are these sleep capsules. So Josh and Sarah get put into these sleep capsules, and they're asleep for like 70 years or 100 years or something like that. But of course, time doesn't, like, they don't age or anything. So then they're finally woken up, and Josh is the first one to wake up, and the whole world is completely different. And it's like this fantasy world, and there's, dwarves and giants and all these different types of creatures, and the bad guy, the villain, the Dark Lord and his henchmen, the Sanhedrin. And then there's this like Jesus-like character. And so it's just this, it's very Narnia-like, but with a little bit of almost like a sci-fi twist to it as well.
I was thinking, I actually read those.
Yeah, okay, good. I was wondering. I was just, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was like, once you started explaining, I was like, oh my goodness, I might have read these books. But you're right. That I think next to C.S. Lewis, those were one of the better sci-fi early fantasy
Yep.
authors I ran across. So I'm actually very glad that we that you mentioned them, because you're right.
Yeah.
That too is rather an inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So those books definitely brought a lot of, helped me with my writing and my writing style, and especially just my love of fantasy and wanting to write my own fantasies. So I still reread those books too. I restarted the Sleepers series, and I'm just like, I love it so much. And then yeah, as I got older, Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. And I take a lot of comfort and encouragement from Tolkien, because he spent so much of his time creating a whole world and languages, not just the world, but languages to go with his world. And so many people were like, oh, when are you going to finish this and actually focus on like real work? When are you going to start teaching the real stuff? You work at Oxford, I think it was, like,
Yeah.
when are you going to do like your Oxford real work? And Tolkien never, he wanted to write a story because he wanted to write a story. He created this because he wanted to. And he didn't see it as like work, and he didn't see it as like, he saw it as important just for the development of his soul. And I'm just like, I love that, because that's something I actually struggle with a lot, is this feeling of like, here I am trying to create my own world and my own just and I often wonder, why am I doing this? What is the point? Is this going to go somewhere? This is not important, you know um just battling that lie that nobody needs this. And that's not true. That is not true. And to see Tolkien having poured all that time and energy into a masterpiece, something that gives hope, something that inspires, something that is world changing. I'm just like, you know what? No, like, we've been created to create. And what God pours into us to create and to put out, to encourage and to uplift other people, there is need for that. There is a need for inspiration. Everyone's different. So
Yeah.
some people get encouragement more from fantasy than from, fact, so to speak, you know.
I think that my mom is definitely more of like a down to earth kind of thing. So,
Mhm. Which you need those people, you do. We can't all be. So it's like it's important both sides.
oh yeah, they're my. I admire the people who are so logical you can spin circles around me. But I'm just like, whenever I start saying things something logically in a fantasy realm, they're just looking and going, "What's the point of this?" And I'm saying, there's the point is that you need the fantasy and imagination,
Mhm.
not because of just your soul, but because it actually gives you an opportunity to step out of this reality,
Yeah.
and immerse yourself in a place where it's actually safe to explore all of the
Yeah.
knowledge that is out there.
Mhm.
And that perspective gives you that opportunity to heal, to change, to see the world and reality that we are in from a vastly different position, which
Yeah.
will happen when we're in it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I think the artist definitely helps people from the
Yeah.
logical point, give them a perspective for the future, a
Yep.
different way to approach it, um, like the what if kind of
Mhm.
thing. And then the logic people are like, okay, there's a time to put on that switch and what a time to like come back to reality. This is like
Yeah.
you. This is great, but you have to live in the now. In this,
Yep.
and it's, I think as artists, we're always going to have that problem.
Yeah.
Or, but I think sometimes the artist is overlooked because
Mhm.
they tend to, um, the practical people are not willing to listen to the artist.
Yep.
Oftentimes are like the prophets of our day, in a sense. We
Yeah.
tell
Very
and
much. Mhm.
to our situation in a way that they're more susceptible to, because it's a lot of times it's a story.
Yep.
But that's a side note.
Mhm. Yeah. Nope. Nope. I agree though. Yeah. Very well said. Well said. Um. So let's see. Let's move on to that's kind of. I think that's basically the those are the most influential writers for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
So how about you read the next
Yeah. I
question?
kick off the other question.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired you to become a writer or an artist?
Yes, yes, yes. So I would have to say my mom, actually. Yeah, because my mom would read, she read to us all the time. And my mom also, she had gone to college to be a journalist. She was a journalist major, so writing was in her blood. Um, Seeking things out, asking questions, finding answers. That's who she is.
Mm.
So she was always writing, and she had a love of reading, and because she always read to us, um, she that just encouraged my imagination, and she encouraged us to write. um, I've been journaling since I was 10. Actually, since I was younger than that, I would write little blurbs every once in a while when I was like 6 7. So um, so yeah, that's for writing. um, that it was my mom who really inspired me, and then because my mom was she appreciated writing, she was open to the other arts as well, and so she just encouraged that for us to explore and to try other art forms and everything. And oftentimes when she'd be reading to us, especially during school, she would let us we'd be listening to classical music, and she would let us color while she'd be reading the lessons and everything. So I had classical music playing that just that classical music just weaves a story in your brain when you listen to it. Like there's so much going on with that. Whole nother topic. And then coloring, like it was just, there was just so many artsy things going on when my mom would be reading. So it was just the perfect atmosphere for the creativeness. My brain quit there. My brain was like, haha, bye, Felicia.
The inspirational atmosphere.
Yes. Thank you.
Yikes. Now I have to answer it. Actually, okay, so it's interesting. I think I was always an artist. I sort of going back to that imagination. My brain is just I can't half wonder why it hasn't exploded yet.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, we so I've like again that was I think I've always been an artist versus at heart, whereas like I cannot not do what we're talking about is
Yep.
thinking about things, wondering, okay, how can this be made differently? How would that affect this reality? And if so, how can I actually draw it into this and
Yeah.
produce it in a way that I can share it with other people?
Mm-hmm.
So as a younger artist, I took, my mom would, I think the same thing is my mom would be the person who actually probably set me off on the journey. But my dad also helped me as well because he is such a great listener. Like he is a fantastic sound person, soundboard where I could just go like, okay, this is a random thought. What do you think? And then he himself would come up with an idea, and I'm going, oh, that has potential. Like mixed with this though, not necessarily
Yeah.
that. How to make it from a raw potential to a fantastic idea. So
Yeah.
that of both parents, coming from different aspects of the art world. My I came from a family of artists, so it's kind of
Yeah.
that always helps. So the again, like the circumstances has always been there from the very beginning. So there's not a
Yeah.
very I can't say like that's the moment when I've wanted to be like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
now consider myself an artist. In fact, I haven't bravely stepped out and actually begin selling some stuff, but that's besides the point. That will come later. But
Mm-hmm.
specifically as a writer, I think that came with a lot of encouragement from my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ideas, you're very capable of this. Now you have to focus on how to specifically um, what do you call it? Like finish it, like start and finish. So
Yep.
I think that's where I became a writer is when I started reading so much and then watching the movies, and from that,
Yeah.
their inspiration and views and perspectives just
Yeah.
enough to actually say, you know what, if you're doing something at your own pace, you can go as slow as a sentence a day. But as long as you enjoy that and have a focus and goal in mind and actually accomplish it,
Yeah.
and that is what is created as art
Yep.
potential. You can mess up as many as you want, but that's life. You're only human. So
Yeah. Exactly.
literally what I think that's what inspired me is just life around me,
Yeah.
your personal experiences of daily life and
Yep.
natural exploration. I think
Mm-hmm.
that really inspires me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think for both of us, it's very safe to say that writing and stories, very, very specifically stories, because it can be, the stories can take any form for us, and we eat it up. We're like, yes. Oh, we're just really sticking with the food concept here. Eating and all the referencing back to, I think we made some eating food references in our last podcast as well. So that's just, common thread. Um, but yeah, I think stories in general, that's how we translate the world around us. That's how we're able to understand situations and people and ourselves.
Exactly.
And yeah, so without stories, it's like we're just dead in the water. We're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. We're like C3PO. Oh,
Yes.
I don't believe I know how to do. I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't think I can go to work today. I don't understand. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, help. Give me a story though.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it makes sense. And not only does it make sense, but I can get excited about something.
Yeah, and
I
then
have,
you could intentionally morph it into
mm-hmm,
completely different, and I think
yeah,
it's more tangible for everybody else around you, and
exactly.
pass the blessing on in a sense. I think that's what. But personally, it's definitely a very personal thing where
Yeah.
we can't do help but create things. And if we do not have that time, then we definitely become C3PO. And
As much as we love C3PO.
yes, there's only so much we can handle before we
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's something missing, we need to find it again. And that's just
Yeah.
part of who we are. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. Cool, cool. All right. So, uh,
Oh
moving, were we finished? Were we finished with that question?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I was going to say the question 5 is that's when I started laughing was when we're exploring the next one is going to be good. Did you want to?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, so the next question that we've got is what is one book or piece of writing you cannot stand? Because, we've all got that one piece that we're just like, burn it.
No,
Not burn it. We don't burn things. We're not burning things. We're not burning
we're not
things.
promise. We just
I'm
we're
sorry. Sometimes I just say things and then I'm like, why?
we're very very violent. No, we're not.
I'm
We're
like,
very
well, just put your hand over your mouth, child. Don't say that.
yeah. No. That's actually a fascinating question because obviously everybody's ran across atrocious writing. Either because of personal preference or because it really is objectively a badly written book. And
Yeah.
oftentimes that is unfortunately the YA section of our day is like
Oh.
very a bit of yeah, exactly, a stab to a heart. You're like you want to cry every time you go up there because I mean
I'm like, why?
there's really a few good, but I've found that from oftentimes that the concepts are so brilliant and absolutely
Right?
have fantastic potential,
Yes.
but then the execution of coming up with a story lacks
Yes.
strong enough characters and the
Yes.
language and the
Yes.
potential of developing a world around it often
Yes.
falls really really flat for me. So
Yes.
that's just the and again the famous Twilight series. I personally have tried reading them. I even tried listening to them, and I just did not make it past chapter 3. I was just thinking, I understand what you're doing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
but you just and I think that's part of the reason why the movies probably fell flat too, is because the characters were not developed in a way that is relatable enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, so I think that's it. I'll just leave it at that. It's just very disappointing to read
Yeah.
something like that. So I've never been. I guess I've struggled primarily with that genre. I can read middle grade novels. I can even read children's books that are very well written,
Yeah.
simple, um, like dislike certain graphics and stuff. But that's what I struggle with is that they have, and even with adults books too. Is again, it's very simple, fantastic, complex potential things, but then
Yeah.
the execution of the language is so dumbed down that it actually isn't even fun to read.
Yep.
That's my answer for that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. That's great, Very good points there. I'm going to kind of take the other side of this
Oh.
question, and I'm going to answer based off of my own preference. Because I'm actually going to talk about classics that I cannot stand. Um, and I'm just like, I feel bad because I know these books they're cited as just being, masterpieces in their own right, and I can understand that, and I can even appreciate it. But for me personally, I just could not stand reading these books. And specifically, I read them in high school.
Mm.
Okay, so the first book that instantly came to mind when I thought of this question was The Scarlet Letter.
Mm.
I cannot stand that book. I cannot stand it. Um, I understand the concept of it. I understand, Nathaniel Hawthorne. Like, writers are we're dramatic people, okay? We're dramatic and we're deep and we're, well, we like to think that anyway. And we're just well, the dramatic, yes, the deep. Some days it's just like, oh honey. But so I get like the time, the era that he was in, and just the perspective of um, what he was kind of bringing to light with his with that book. So like I understand all the historical aspects, and but reading that book was so depressing, and it was so I was, and also it was just hard to understand.
Mm.
As much as I love classics, there are, I'll admit there are a lot of words that I'm just like, ooh, that's beautiful. What does it mean? I'm like, okay, I cannot get a clear enough picture in my head. I'm a visual person. So if I can't see it in my head, you lost me. And oftentimes, Nathaniel Hawthorne would go into these very long explanations of or descriptions of the innermost thoughts of Hester, who was the like main character, so to speak, or the bishop or the father, the pastor guy, can't remember his name. Like he would just go into very long descriptions of what was going on with these particular characters, and I kind of got the gist of what he was saying, and then I kind of was like, I don't see the point of the rest of this description. Like, you kind of, I get where you're coming from. I get what you're saying for the most part, and I think you can kind of. I'm like, also, there wasn't enough dialogue for me either. I'm a very big dialogue person, so it gives me a better understanding of people's character and their relationship to each other and the world around them when there's more dialogue. And there was like barely any dialogue in this book, so I was just very much like, this picture is unclear, um, and this woman's story is just so distressing, which is the point, more or less, of the story. um, but it was just, I was like, is there any like looking at it from just a more hopeful perspective, I was just like, wow, these people really did not handle the situation very well. And a lot of the theology within the book, I was just like, well, that's that's not quite accurate. Like, there should be more grace, or there should be more, compassion towards, like, people make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, that wasn't necessarily the culture at the time. The culture at the time was, like, adultery, you could still essentially be stoned for that, or hung, or whatever. It was just like, they didn't take it lightly, which, I'm like, I get that. But still, I just got so depressed reading that book. So I was like, this book is terrible. I hate it. Um, and then the other book that I actually never finished this one, was Moby Dick.
Oh, okay, that was funny. I had not read the Scarlet Letter, but honestly, the Moby Dick came to mind when you started talking about it. I was like, okay, I I've had some people say like that's their favorite classic book, and I'm like,
I've heard people say that too.
honestly, my favorite part of that book was the whale chart section, like the description of whales. I was like, this is fantastic because there's like a sketch pad so I can just start drawing them. I was like, this is amazingly beautifully
Mhm.
um, illustrated with words,
Yeah.
portrait, but I missed the entire story, which again, I was like, well, revenge doesn't personally motivate me, but I
Yeah.
get why that is such an important, strong, compelling force of nature
Yeah.
behind something. But the ridiculousness of it is, again, it left me with a bad taste in my mouth. So I
Yep.
never really want to reread that book.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't understand, the other one, but
Yeah.
I did appreciate the whale chart section. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So yeah,
yeah.
those are my. I think for Moby Dick, it was just hard. I sometimes have trouble with nautical books. I do love. I like the ocean. The ocean's great. But it's hard for me again. Sometimes describing life on the boat or ship. I'm sorry. Some sailing people get so picky. They're like, it's a ship, not a boat. I'm like, okay, okay. Um, so describing the ship, sometimes I just can't picture it. So then I don't know what I'm looking at in my brain, and then I get lost among all the words. So I'm just like, and the whole book is it takes place on the ocean, and I'm like, I'm starting to feel seasick, and I'm not even there. I think I need to stop. I can't read this book. So yeah.
Maybe it was
Whew.
what you is that the characters were so unrelatable.
Oh,
It
yeah.
came across as very, very stiff and, rather like, okay, I don't like you enough to even figure out in continuing the story. So
Yeah.
maybe the flaw of the reason why I didn't like.
Yeah. 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 Just didn't resonate with me, you know? But that's actually really good. Like, if any of y'all, precious listeners and viewers, like The Scarlet Letter or like Moby Dick, or, hey, comment down below. Tell us why you like those books and what you find intriguing about them. That's cool. People like different things, and we're all about that. So, yeah, hit us up. Tell us why. Tell us what your least liked book is, and all of that. We'd be very interested in hearing your comments on that. Um, so yeah, and then I think we have one.
One more
Come
question.
here. One more question. Did you read the last one or did I? Last question.
Yeah. So the last one for you all we're going to answer is is the one about grammar. So, a radical mistake you can't forgive.
Hmm. Yes, yes, yes. I struggle when people don't use punctuation. When people don't use punctuation.
Start with texting then.
Oh, yeah, nope, that's where I was going. Yeah, I don't like it when people don't use punctuation and when people don't capitalize the first letter of a sentence. Um, it just, I get it. Texting is supposed to be fast and, kind of just like a do done. But I can't. I'm like, it hurts my soul. People will send me like a one word answer and they don't put a period at the end. I'm like, come on. Why? I thought you were my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a stickler for grammar either, and I was going to answer the
Yeah.
question differently, but you actually reminded me of one that actually affects me. Oh, yeah. Did you want to go into your answer, or is that all?
I mean, I think that was pretty basic. Like, yeah, it's hard when people don't use commas because it changes the way you read the sentence, people. A comma changes the way you read it, okay?
Ooh, if you want a book, Shoots and Leaves, I forget what the author's name is, but Shoots and Leaves is a fantastic grammar book that I would highly recommend you reading if you haven't heard of it already.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah, it definitely talks about the proper use and grammar rules, which actually made me more aware of how how something reads in my thing because I'm not naturally gifted in that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
perspective of that made me really appreciate how editing actually work. Even though I would still prefer being the writer versus the
Mm-hmm.
editor.
Yeah.
Editors are very special people. Let's just say that they're very you need them.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Thank you to our editors.
Yes, so give
Any
them
editors watching, we appreciate you.
so much. You thank you for putting up with a lot of hairbrained mistakes that you'll probably have gotten so many of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're sorry for all the heart attacks we've given you.
Yes. Yeah.
Reading through. No, not the lack of commas.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think my grammatical mistake is generally more of the preference of shortening everything,
Ah,
where it's like LOL. Okay, so my introduction to that sort of what is that what's the technical word? It's the
shorthand?
not short. Well, it's shorthand, but there's a different things that we refer to.
Ab-
Anyway,
abbreviation?
so abbreviational things. My first introduction to that, like I for the longest time, I grew up using actual words. So
Mm,
if you don't shorten a three word title, you just say the book, the entire thing, no matter how ridiculous it is.
yep.
Uh, uh, but then I mean I understand to a point of doing it, but then again going back to like this texting where we shorten everything,
Yeah.
point where it becomes a little it actually becomes confusing for me to keep.
Mm,
So it comes to the point where I'm like, okay, it's a two-letter word, just say it. Don't say, whatever it is. Like, so the
yeah.
first introduction to this world was like an AC unit, and I was that person stuck in the middle of a car with at least 4 or 5 other people. I think I was at least 14 or 15 years old, and I was that kid, that said, "Okay, what's the AC unit?" Like I don't know what this word means, stands. And my brother looked at me and I was like, "It's air conditioning."
Oh no.
I said, "No,
Oh.
that was not in my daily vocab. I'm sorry, I'm not."
Oh.
So it was just one of those memorable moments where I was introduced into the world, and I'm like, okay, there's a fine balance. I get it. If you have a filing system that is strictly that's fantastic. Just let people in on it. Don't
Yeah.
make it mean. But if it's daily communication, through text, please don't say, all in capital letters THX, things like, you know,
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
simple like that. I get it. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
for me is. I don't know if it is that or not, but
Yeah, nope, I say that makes sense, because yeah, that does that bothers me to a degree. Because yeah, if it's something like, yeah, thanks, I'm like, oh, come on. Is it really too much work for you to actually spell out thanks with a period at the end? Come
exactly.
on, people, we're not savages.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a cultural thing or not,
Mm.
anything. And I get it.
Yeah.
We're so dumbed down to the point where we have opinions for everything, which I'm just thinking, okay. Like I was in class for one of my classes was talking about how we went from pictograms to writing and then back to pictograms again, and it's very
Yep.
very there's an entire paragraph example of just emojis, and I'm like, I haven't even seen 85% of this stuff, so where are you getting this? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so anyway, that was just an example. I'm just wanted to share with everyone because that it's not blatantly obvious to everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
need to
Yeah.
someone's works before just sending it because I might have to be like, can you translate this for me? Because I have no idea what you're going to say.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Oh, it's such an interesting world we live in.
Yeah, and again, I'm not sure if it's that good, if it's better, more complicated or not.
I know. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's an entirely different discussion. So
We could be here all day with that one. So yeah, well, that kind of wraps up our little Q&A, get to know us, a little background on who we are. And what's a again, what is a grammatical error that, you guys cannot forgive, or something about, the texting world that drives you up a wall? What are things that you like about it? Like, hit us up with like your favorite emoji or something. I personally love the one that's going like, I love that one. I love that one, and the little kissy face with the heart, because it's so cute.
yeah, I think the most often one I use is the teardrop, sweat drop one with.
That one too. Oh yeah.
And then I ran across the monkey one with like and I'm like, yep, those are like the two, the two
Yep. I do
emojis.
the face palm one a lot too. I'm like, ah.
Exactly, those are the ones that would represent my life.
Yep. Yep. Lately, I've been using the one that has no mouth. It's
Oh,
just the eyes, because I'm just like, oh, whoops. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let us know in the comments. It's been really awesome getting to kind of know everybody through these first 2 episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We have so much more to talk about and offer, and we certainly hope that you will come along for the ride with us. We have so much to explore and discover, and it's going to be beautiful. So
yeah.
yeah.
Just a hint up for what we're going to be planning ahead for everyone is a small series of where we're going to read certain books, famous books, and then compare the originals with the movie versions.
Mm-hmm. Movie adaptations.
Yeah, stay tuned for that if you're
Mm-hmm.
interested, and would love to continue with us. So we'll see you then.
In the meantime, have a beautiful day, beautiful life, beautiful everything. We love y'all. Thank you so much. Bye.